Our federal marijuana laws are outdated and they're broken. The law and the books make it harder for veterans to get treatment for chronic pain. They keep children with rare diseases in agony, and they make life miserable for individuals struggling with terminal diseases. The science is clear. Medical marijuana treatments are effective. There is absolutely no reason that patients should be prevented from seeking scientifically approved care. But right now, that is the reality for millions of people across this country. These archaic laws don't just hurt individual people, they also prevent businesses who are in the marijuana business from getting access to banking services. That forces a multi-billion-dollar industry to operate all in cash. That's bad for business and bad for safety. And we cannot talk about our country's approach to marijuana policies without addressing the widespread discrimination these policies foster within our criminal justice system. Discrimination that has devastated communities of color for generations. So the way I see it, we have two choices. We can either sit on the sidelines and we can bemoan the old-fashioned policies, or we can roll up our sleeves, get to work, and propose a solution. States like Massachusetts and Colorado have done the work. We have legalized marijuana. In fact, 46 states, the District of Columbia, 2 territories, and a number of tribes have legalized marijuana in some form. They've taken action, and the law on their books should be protected. So that's why today we're introducing the States Act, a bipartisan legislation that would let states, territories, and tribes decide for themselves how to regulate marijuana without federal interference. We're taking action to protect the millions of Americans who access medical marijuana under state law. We're taking action to protect businesses that need access to basic banking services. And we're taking action to address the systematic discrimination in our criminal justice system that has ruined the lives of African Americans for generations for something as small as a joint of marijuana. Reforming our nation's marijuana policies is hard work. We get that. But we believe that when we work together, we can get this done. I am proud to be in this fight, and I am proud to have a partner like Cory Gardner. Senator Gardner?
Thank you, Senator Warren. And this has been a great partnership from the very beginning. A number of our colleagues coming together to find a solution on what is a very significant state-federal conflict. Our founders intended the states to be laboratories of democracy. And many states right now find themselves deep in the heart of that laboratory. But it's created significant conflict between state law, federal law, and how do we move forward? And as the President said in a conversation to me, we can't go backwards, we can only go forwards. It's not going back, the ketchup's not going back into the bottle, as the old saying goes. I opposed the legalization of marijuana when Colorado chose to do this several years back. But if the election were held today, I believe Colorado voters would vote by an even greater margin to move forward with legalization. We have a number of states now that have this conflict that simply must be addressed because there's several things that we need to achieve. Number one, this is a chance for us to express that federalism works, to take an idea that the states have led with and provide a solution that allows them to continue to lead. Number two, this is a public hypocrisy. The city of Denver, the state of Colorado can collect taxes. Massachusetts businesses can collect taxes. They can take it to the bank, but if you're in the business, if you work for the business, you can't get a bank loan or set up a bank account because of the concern over the conflict between the state and federal law. We need to fix this public hypocrisy. The third thing, this is a public safety issue. Billions of dollars in cash floating around Colorado and other states that have a legalized industry that can't bank it are forced to figure out how, where, what to do with hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in cash. It's time that we take this industry out of the shadows, bring these dollars out of the shadows, and make sure that we hold people accountable for an industry that states are moving forward with, regardless of the pace of business in Washington, D.C. So again, this is an opportunity to work with a bipartisan coalition of members in the House and the Senate to provide a federalism-based solution, a solution that analysts and commentators on the left and the right have said is beautiful in its simplicity. A few pages of a bill that fixes the most significant challenges this question has faced. It fixes the banking issue, fixes the taxation issue, and it allows states to have the certainty, intrastate, to allow their business, their industries to move forward as that state has decided. Now remember, this is not a legalization bill. I think that's very important. Mm-hmm. This is an approach that allows the states to move forward. If a state like Oklahoma or Kansas or Nebraska chooses for themselves not to do this, they do not have to. The federal law remains the same. Nothing changes for them. But for those states like Massachusetts and Colorado, this is the opportunity our founders intended. Allow states to be those laboratories of democracy. So it's great to be here with Senator Warren. You've been a fantastic advocate and leader on this issue, and I look forward to taking some questions along with Senator Warren.
Sure.
How do you plan to move this forward? I know Mr. McConnell says he opposes these efforts. What, just building support here amongst your colleagues?
I think this is, thanks, Senator Warren. This is a significant education push that we have to do. We have to make sure that members in states that haven't faced this question, there are states that are now going to be facing this question for the first time, Missouri comes to mind, and others, education about what this is, what it is not. And there are so many states now that have this, that are moving forward. We have to fix this conflict. The president has said we have to fix this conflict. And so I think it's important that we work with Senator McConnell, work with our colleagues who may not be supportive at this time, to find a solution that what is something that we've all said. Let's give the states more power to make decisions for themselves.
Right. Yeah. I should only add on this point, because Senator Gardner's done great work in trying to plow the ground here. This is a bipartisan bill. Mm-hmm. We are building strong bipartisan support here in Congress, in both the House and in the Senate. And we are developing good bipartisan support around the country. So keep watching over the next few days. But I think you'll see both politicians at the state level who will come out and support this from both parties. And I think you'll see independent groups that are from a wide spectrum of the political front endorse this bill. And I think that's how we're going to do this. And again, I have to underline, as Senator Gardner did, this is not a bill that forces legalization on any state that doesn't want it. So part of the pitch here for getting a vote through Congress is to say this is for the states who want to act. We're trying to take care of business in Massachusetts, in Colorado. We're trying to respect the voters of our states that said this is how we want to do business around marijuana here in Massachusetts, here in Colorado, and we just want the federal government to get out of the way and let them do it.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'll let you take the question.
You're doing
I'm sorry.
fine.
Yeah.
No. This is what partnership is about. Go ahead, have right at it, Cory.
Given the president has already sort of moved in this direction of respecting what you guys are sending forward, how amenable do you think he's going to be to this initiative, and have you spoken with him, or do you have a sense of how he might react to it?
Senator Gardner?
I have spoken to the president about this approach. I've talked to the president about this bill. I think in the previous conversation we had, he talked about the need to solve this conflict between state and federal law. He talked about his support for a states' rights approach during the campaign. He's talked about that in the days since with me. So I think this is, again, not putting words in the mouth of the White House, but I think this will be an opportunity for us to fulfill what is that federalism approach. Shut it out.
When was the last time you spoke with the president, and did you speak to him after the bill was formalized?
I've spoken to the president today, and certainly that was part of the conversation.
So nothing's going to happen this year on this bill. Is that fair to say? Or do you think
Why would you say that?
because it's an election year? Who wants to vote on marijuana in an election year?
The two of us.
The two of us. And look, the two of us and all the people, look at the number of states that will be affected by this. The number of states where the people of that state have spoken and said, this is how we want to treat marijuana within our state, within our territory, within our tribe. And this says, let's respect the voters of those states. Let's respect the state officers that are working out the rules, figuring out exactly how they want to handle enforcement. Let's just respect that. I think that there's actual enthusiasm on both sides of the aisle to get this done. This is an example of Congress doing its job.
Where's, how many co-sponsors do you have on your bill right now?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. We've made the determination to make this as bipartisan as possible, to go one for one. One Democrat, one Republican. I think we've got 4 or 6 at this point right now in the Senate side. We certainly have significant support in the House. And as Senator Warren mentioned, the support for this bill is across a very wide spectrum of political ideologies. You're going to see that in the outside groups, organizations that support this legislation. You'll see that in governors across the country. And you're also going to see that in terms of the members of the House. From Freedom Caucus members of the House to everyone else in between. This has a broad. That's why I think that this bill can move forward, and it should move forward, because the conflict and the challenge that remain are too great to not step up and solve.
Who's the House champion, by the way?
They were doing it today. That's been out, right? Yeah. So it's David Joyce has been a part of Earl Blumenauer as well, and then a number of co-sponsors, Democrat and Republican, in the House.
Right, we're lining them up like Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
As they come on 2 by 2.
Mark.
Senator Gardner, does the bill have any restrictions, let's say on rest stops or gas stations or anything like that? Could you go into some of perhaps the restrictions here?
Yeah, we can go into that. We can get you that information. Obviously, there are some protections, some basic protections in the law that are identified already in the federal statute. Remember, 420. The whole date. By the way, you know that we had to take out the mile marker 420 in Colorado because people kept stealing it. That's it. It's hanging
But
on
you
your
didn't-
wall. It's on your wall.
But you didn't offer to return it.
But, so Section 420 of the law is where many of these provisions reside, that area of statute. And so there are some protections that we continue in that. We can get to the full list.
Right, we think of this like guardrails.
Yeah.
So in the state laws, there'll be restrictions on being able to sell at rest stops, restrictions on the age of people working in the industry, and safety for those working in the industry, and a minimum age for sales.
Yeah. And just one point, you guys both mentioned that this is not a legalization bill.
Correct.
But just a point of clarification, this bill does legalize marijuana federally in states that have already okayed it. Is that right?
That's the state's choice. So this bill, in absence of state action, does nothing.
Yes. But if the state has acted, this bill requires the federal government to recede, and that means within the state of Massachusetts, the marijuana business will be legal, which means they can put their money in
Right.
federally insured banks and enter the stream of commerce as a legal business. It means that they can take ordinary tax deductions. So the state definition will control.
No one's brought up the Attorney General yet. Having opposition,
Let's bring them up.
having opposition from the highest law enforcement officer in the nation, is that going to be a hurdle to gaining support here on the Hill?
You know, I look at it this way. I think it's the Attorney General who gave us the impetus to bring our colleagues together to change the law in this area. When the Attorney General said that he was going to start enforcing federal laws in places like Massachusetts that had just overturned the prohibition on marijuana, it spurred us to more immediate action and to start to at least try to build the bridge, not between those who don't believe in legalization and those who do believe in legalization, but to say, let's take a practical step right now that we can take that reflects the will of the people of our home states. And it's gotten a lot of people engaged in a way that they weren't 6 months ago. Thanks to the Attorney General, more people feel the urgency of the moment in changing federal law on marijuana. Go Jeff Sessions.
Well, thank you. Any more questions?
Anything else? Anybody else? We're good? Oh, we got one more. Yes.
A clarification on something you said
Sure.
just a moment ago about certain restrictions about where you can sell and at what age. Does that mean that the federal government can continue to enforce federal law if states don't abide by that, and do any states not abide by it?
So the way the law is designed is there are some federal guardrails, as there often are in issues that are left to the states. There are federal guardrails, and in order to qualify for the exemption from federal law, the guardrails have to be met.
Do you know if any states already do not have those laws on books?
I can't think
I
of any
don't.
off the top of my head, but I think it's important. This is a very, very important point. I mean,
Right.
the idea is to make sure that we are solving any criminality that occurs, and if there's involvement that people are concerned that is breaking that state law provision, this brings clarity between federal law and local law enforcement officers. One of the things I hear from local law enforcement, of course, is there's so much lack of clarity. This brings that clarity as in the most simple of fashions, allowing states the decision themselves to go forward.
Yeah, and it is that clarity point that Senator Gardner identifies that's so crucial here. You know, I appreciate that under the Cole agreement that the Justice Department had said for some number of years now that it would not enforce the marijuana laws. But frankly, that didn't fix the whole problem. It did not fix the problem that the marijuana business was still technically illegal federally, and that meant that money received from the sale of products couldn't be put into the banking system. It meant that there were problems with declaring tax deductions because federal law continued to treat marijuana as an unlawful substance. So the importance of this amendment is to try to fix all of those problems, not simply to rely on the Justice Department to be more forgiving, but as a matter of federal law, to fix the problem, to move marijuana laws into the 21st century. Clarity is important for the businesses and important for the people who use marijuana. Good. We got it?
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.